Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Night Live. It is great to see all of you on Thursday, July 6th. So we hope you've had an excellent holiday week. And now it is time to buckle down. I think the 4th of July is kind of always that halfway point in our summer. And if you've rested and relaxed the first half, it is time to get to work the second half. So we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you're learning and investing in yourself and your own personal development. Tonight, we truly are raising the bar a long ways up. We may never be able to reach this high again. But what we have for you tonight is a true treat. I learned about Eric Walton and this fantastic book that he wrote and coaching program that he put together called Downline Leadership. I heard about it from my Crossline friend, Britta Dimmler, who many of you know. And Britta just raved about how valuable this was to her and to her team. And if you know Britta, you know that she keeps it very real. So she is not one that will give false praise to anyone or anything. And I very, very much appreciate that about her. What you see is exactly what you get. And so I took a leap of faith at a time in my life and in my business where I wasn't really sure if that's what I should be doing. And I can just tell you that it turned out to be one of the very best decisions that I have ever made. Eric also presented for the first time at convention. He shared a funny little story just a couple minutes ago that some of you heard. When I went to Eric's session at convention this year, I was absolutely blown away because I've gone to convention for 5 years and I've sat through many, many sessions. And what I came away with was a heart that was just filled with pride because I knew him. but I thought honestly that Eric was the most professional, concise, well-organized speakers that I have ever heard. They let a lot of people get on stage, and some of them are really great speakers, and some of them are really great at sharing oils, and those two don't always come together. So I am more than happy tonight to be able to introduce all of you to my friend and my coach, Eric Walton. And I would just encourage you to have your notebook ready because I know that you're going to be gaining a lot of value tonight. And have your questions ready. So when we meet afterwards, for those of you that are on here live, we want you to be able to have your personal questions answered. So Eric, without further ado, I would love to turn this over to you.
Thank you so much, Skyla. And it is a pleasure and an honor to meet everyone. And I know many of you are certainly from the Midwest, where Skyla's from, but the rest of the country as well. So thank you for joining us tonight. Let me just give you a little bit of background. And now that the stakes are so high that she has built this up as the biggest presentation ever, I'll bring it down to earth a little bit. I had just the pleasure of meeting Skyla for a 12-week program. She mentioned Downline Leadership, which is a leadership development program that I run. And she was in a very special group, special because it also had my wife in it. You can only imagine what it is to have your wife in the same class. And to make matters even more interesting, it was her second time for doing the program. She was one of the very first ones to do it when it was in its infancy, and she liked that because she got a chance to correct me often as to things I needed to change. But the second time was with a bunch of amazing people that she didn't know, and she was very excited to do that. And it really helped to do some cross-line things. And she got a chance to become really good friends with Skyla, Teresa Gingles, Jamie McKenzie, and Laura Steele. Just some wonderful people, literally all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast, Boston and Jersey included. And so it was a great time. So thank you for that. But let me give you a little bit of background about myself. I talked about my wife, Tammy. She's a diamond. We've been in the business for about 4 years, and she has done an amazing job getting us there. And literally the reason I get a chance to speak to you all is because of what she's done. So I may have some wisdom to bring, but I always want to recognize it was my wife's work and effort that got me to this stage in this moment. I've been an executive in the high-tech world for about 30 years and did a lot of leadership development along the line. But about 5 years ago, I just decided I just couldn't produce one more piece of software, hardware, or another microchip. I just wanted to focus on developing leaders. So I became a certified John Maxwell leader with the John Maxwell team. And you may be familiar with John. He is the world's foremost writer and author on leadership today, written about 80 books now, and had an opportunity to be one of his first groups of coaching. And I've been doing that for 5 years in the corporate space. But about 18 months ago, my wife asked me to, it'd be really cool if you could actually apply some of what you do to my downline, like maybe help me in my business. And so I started with a book that I wrote, and it was really trying to focus on how do you bring out leadership when none of these people work for you. They don't report to you. You have all the responsibility and zero authority. And that was so difficult for many people, but in reality, that's when a true leader actually flourishes. So Skylar, we didn't talk about this, but I thought maybe I'm going to try to see if I can share my screen. And let's see if this works or not. What do you know? Let's go to, and let me know if everyone sees the PowerPoint as it slowly comes up. Oh, cool. Does everybody see the PowerPoint? Thumbs up? All right, cool. So this is the presentation that I gave at convention. I wanted to share this with you, and I know that for some reason, let me see if this works. Oh, cool. All right, so just a chance to talk about what it means to really become a leader. And leaders, again, only get a chance to do this when they've gained something that's very, very special, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But what you're all looking for is the definition of success, right? I want to have a successful business. And what does that actually look like? So I want to talk about that. So I've got a very simple formula. And by the way, this is the only formula in my book. So this is not rocket science, but it is one. But I made it look a little bit more difficult than it is. But let me go through it real quickly because it's real simple. So the DS just stands for downline success. I want to be successful in my business. And how do you do that? Well, guess what? It's going to be determined by, or equal to, if you will, the level of DM, which is downline management. All right? How competent are you in running your business? And then it's going to be multiplied by the effectiveness of your downline leadership. And so when you look at that formula for a second, and it makes a big difference when you look at that, you still have to run your business. These go together. This is never where I'm going to tell you that you can't manage your business, you shouldn't manage your business. Oh no, it's all about the people, just lead the team. It's a combination of the two that makes the difference. And when I talk about running your business, I'm talking about things like prospecting. I'm talking about things like follow-up. I'm talking about education, supporting your teams, supporting your customers, helping others to manage their business, and establishing goals, daily, weekly, and monthly goals. The things that make your business click every day. Now, you're all thinking, wait a second, that's what I do all the time. That's the other issue. You've now left off the one component, which is really important, which is leadership. And now you have to manage your business. By the way, no one else will. Skyla's not going to run your business for you. It's not her business, it's your business. So you have to own it, you have to run it, you have to work it. But that's not going to be enough, because the real secret is in leading your team. And that's why there's a multiplication sign. It's not management plus leadership, it's management times leadership. Because the real secret to really catapulting your business to that next rank, the next level of success, is how effective you are in leading your team. Especially when they don't talk to you, they don't listen to you, they don't have to do what you tell them to do. You don't have any authority, control, or command over them. They're only going to be led by you, by how you actually get around to influence. So what does that mean? Let me go to a quote by my mentor, and I think it's cut off, so I'll read it to you. But leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And I think it's really appropriate for our talk today, because you all want to know, okay, Eric, great, another leadership speech. What does that really mean? Let me tell you, it's exactly what John says. It's all about influence. And frequently, most of us were grown up in that command and control model. A lot of us have a military background in our family. which is to say that it depends on my rank, like I'm a diamond, so you all will listen to me. And it has nothing to do with anything. And I like the blue across the screen. That's really cool. So that's an added benefit to the presentation. But it's not about rank, right? No one in your downline has to do anything that you tell them to do. So wait a second. If leadership's all about influence, then wouldn't you want to learn a little bit how to get me some of that influence, right? Let me talk about the leadership engine, because this is what I believe to be the real solution and the real driver to what it is to be a leader. So we're going to talk about this holistically first, and then I'm going to break down each one. But to get influence, you have to have this engine running at peak performance. And let me tell you that it starts in the upper left with credibility. When you meet people for the first time, the first thing you're going to do is establish your credibility with them. Who are you? Why should they even begin to listen to you? And as you may recall, I did that with our conversation. Skyla introduced me, then I talked about my relationship with Tammy, how that earned me the stage, and then I've been doing leadership development for 30 years, and the last 5 as a certified coach. All that was to establish credibility so that you would listen to me. But credibility is still not enough, because the next thing that happens is, and you'll see the arrows on the engine, credibility leads you to the opportunity to build relationships. And it is obviously, by the way, it is a relationship-based business. And so you want to be in a situation where you're going to build effective, sound relationships where people know that you care about them. So now that I've got some credibility, I have built some relationships, that allows you to earn trust. And trust can only be earned. Once I've got trust, though, now that I'm in a situation where I'm looked at as a trusted advisor, they're going to listen more carefully to my insight. This gives me the opportunity, the foundation to gain influence. And once you have influence, you can impact the direction of a team or of another person. By the way, not coerce, not direct, not order, not pull, but to influence, to motivate, to encourage, and to push. But because you've got credibility, relationships, and trust, that's how you gain influence. So this engine, and by the way, as you exert your influence and it works successfully, guess what you just did? Built more credibility. As you build more credibility, it allows you to build a deeper relationship. As you have a deeper relationship, you earn more trust. As you earn more trust, you get more influence. As you do this with your team, that engine starts working at peak performance. That's when you're leading your team. Even though they could be around the world, even though they all have their own business, they don't work for you, that's when you really know that you have influence. Let me give you one example. So one of the things that my wife and I did at a church in the past is we were in charge of the Saturday bathroom cleaning team. Now, if you've ever done something at church, this is pretty much it's actually a little lower than working in nursery. You come on a Saturday, only purpose is to clean the bathroom. Well, these are volunteers. You don't have hire fire. You can't give them a bigger bonus. You can't give them a raise. You hear the analogy, right? You can't change people's comp plan. You can't change their salary. You can't change their commission check. Yet you still want them to show up on Saturday so you can clean the bathroom. How did you do that? The leadership engine, credibility, relationship, trust, and influence. And they knew that when they came on a Saturday, we were going to have a fabulous time. And Tammy and I were going to be in the bathroom with them, working alongside of them, because we're all on the same journey. And that's the other key part for what this all means. It doesn't matter whether, Skyla and I are on diamonds. We're on the same journey you are. The thing I like to compare is so powerful is on day 1 at 12 midnight, my commission check looks exactly like yours. It's a big fat 0. And that doesn't matter if you're a star or a royal. Trust me, even the royals at 1 minute after midnight, their check looks exactly like yours. Now it changes quickly after that. But on that one moment, we're the exact same journey. We're the same place on the journey. So what you want to do is find out, okay, so what are these people doing differently that allows that check to increase rapidly throughout the month? How do they get there? I'm going to tell you right away, you can get to silver by working hard and doing a lot of things on your own. You will not get past silver without a team. Will not. And you surely won't get to diamond without being an effective leader. Can't. It actually doesn't happen. And even though the leaders, actually, I have lots of, in my class, I have lots of diamonds. And why? Because they're trying to figure out how to get to crown and to royal. They're trying to figure out what have I not done yet that I can do more. So when Skylar was talking about how she pushed herself, well, that's because she wanted to make even those more improvements. So this concept is to get this engine going. But let's take you down each piece, all right? So we add a little more meat to this. So establishing credibility. So credibility is the quality of being authentic and believable. Well, those two words are really important, all right? And I think that's something that you want to hold on to. What is it going to take for me to establish authenticity and believability? What do those things look like? Well, to be credible, you first have to be authentic. What that means is you've got to be real. You've got to be genuine. You've got to be true to yourself. You got to be confident. You got to be open, and you have to be trustworthy. Let me give you that list again because it's really helpful. When someone wants to know, are you authentic? Remember, let's say you're doing your first one-on-one class. Are you authentic? They want to know, are you real? Are you genuine? Are you true to yourself? Are you confident? Are you open? And you're trustworthy. Let me give you an example. So my wife and I were getting ready to come to convention, and we live in Phoenix. And we thought the best way to get to Salt Lake City from Phoenix is to drive to Albuquerque first. Now, if you look at a map, that's not exactly the smartest direction to go, but we had 3 grandchildren with us. And so we were handing the 3 grandchildren off to our daughter and son-in-law in Albuquerque. They live in Tulsa, so I do go to the Midwest often, and we're going to meet in the middle, okay? So we're on the way there. We're up in northern Arizona. We've only been traveling for a couple hours, and the littlest one was having trouble. The wind was buffeting the car a little bit, and so she started to throw up. And my wife is a very practiced Nana. She heard the sounds, turned around, caught half of it, got it in a bag. I mean, she just was a pro. We climbed out of I pulled over, climbed out of the car. She cleaned up. No one even gagged. We did this like within 5 minutes. We were cleaned up and back on the road. I mean, literally the grandparents, we were just really professionals. So we stopped someplace in nowhere, New Mexico, had a hamburger, which is what you shouldn't do when one's still having an unsettled stomach. But, we knew she was hungry, so got back on the road. We're now about 30 minutes out of Albuquerque, and I've got a Downline leadership group call in 35 minutes. And it's not raining. It's a desert torrential downpour. Happens in the desert every now and then. It's coming down in buckets. You cannot see. The windshield wiper is going full speed, and you can't get there. And yes, the second one, she throws up the hamburger and everything else she had. This time, Nana couldn't catch it. It was all over the back seat, all over the car seat, all over her, in her hair. It was everywhere. It was raining so hard we couldn't even lower the windshield. I said the windows. So the other 2 starts to gag. I'm starting to gag, and we can't pull over. It was really, really incredibly crazy. And then Tammy just starts to laugh because it was so absurd that the situation that the grandparents were in, that why are we doing this again? Why are we having to do this? I don't get it. And sure enough, we literally had to just, Emma, just hang in there 10 more minutes, and 30 more minutes we'll be there. So we texted ahead to my daughter and said, Janelle, make sure when you meet us at the front door, you have a towel and the whole thing, because I'm white knuckled, traffic's awful, raining hit, and I got a phone call. So we pull in, screech. I waved goodbye to everybody. Hey, have a good time cleaning up the car. I got to run, grab my backpack. I go to the meeting. And it was just purely absurd. Now, here's the credible part that, we were grandparents. We were 1 for 2 in the throw up. But there was one thing we did really smart. It was their car. So, we've done this before. And so we, of course, had to switch to our 4Runner, and we got to drive that to Salt Lake City. And just wanted to share that with you, because when you're with people, they want to know that you're real. They want to know that you're grandparents. They want to know that you had to catch your share of throw up. They want to know that you've got your feet in the mud. You know what it is to work this business the ground up, right? That's what they want to know. They want to know that you know what it is to on that first day to make the first dollar. That's what they want to know. So that's what it is to establish that, are you authentic? But the other, let me give you one definition of authenticity you like. So authenticity is what happens when honesty meets vulnerability and self-awareness. And I'll repeat that. Authenticity is what happens when honesty meets vulnerability and self-awareness. And I know it's really hard for us to be vulnerable, but when I share that story, right, I'm not sharing it because I really want to. I really want to talk about having my grandkids throw up. I want to talk about that because it's really the way that I want you to see me as a real person. I've been through the school of hard knocks. But the other part is being believable. Now, believable is a little different than being authentic, right? So authentic was what happens when honesty meets vulnerability and self-awareness, right? What happens when honesty meets vulnerability and self-awareness. All three things are really critical for being authentic. Believable means, are you competent? Are you consistent in your performance? Do you relate well to others? Are you an encourager, a coach? Do you know how to engage? Do you know how to listen to other people? That makes you believable. So they want to know, first of all, that when you're authentic, that you're a real person. Believable means that you've got something to say. Those two things, when you combine them, is what makes you credible. Now remember, this is just the first portion of the leadership engine. But if you don't establish credibility, think about it. Why would anyone want to ever be led by you if they don't think that you're credible? That's why this is a basic foundational element for a leader. You must find a way to establish your credibility with your team and your downline. Authenticity is showing others your inside. Believability is showing others your outside. So authenticity is what's inside of you, and believability is what's on the outside. So they want to know that you're credentialed. So when I say I'm a certified John Maxwell coach, that's about being believable. Spending 5 years in this business, I say 4 years in this business, 5 years in coaching, it makes me authentic, right? Those are two different things. You really want to hear that. But if you aren't real, relevant, and relatable, you will not establish credibility. And if you aren't credible, you're not going to be able to lead. It's that simple. Let's go on to the next one, building relationships. So in case this is cut off, relationships are the way in which people connect to each other. And oh, by the way, Skyla, I'll make the presentation available to everyone so you can see the bullets. So if you're writing notes, I really want you to write notes of things that you hear that make a difference to you. Not so much that you're writing connecting, caring, and relationship map, because you'll have that. But I want you to make sure that you're hearing those things and what's really caught your ear. But anyway, relationships are in the way in which people connect to each other. So the first thing you got to do when you got a relationship, yes, remember I said this, this is a relationship business. Well, it's really true. People will only want to trust their family's health and wellness to someone that they have a relationship with. This is not about buying the next bottles of pills on TV or going to a vitamin store and buying a bottle. It doesn't work that way. Not when you got something this serious, something this important. So the first thing you have to do is you have to connect. So connecting is the action behind relationships. In other words, when someone says build a relationship, what does that actually mean? The first thing you do is you connect with them. You've got to find that way where you can foster a two-way communication, one that's going to be mutual, right? This is not about me teaching or training, or it's me about establishing a two-way communication with you, but also one that is trusted and effective, right? So they want to know that you've found a way to make that bridge to that other person. Everyone's unique. You'll find that building that bridge and connecting with them takes a different approach depending on who they are. I have one millennial that literally has 65,000 unread emails. And that's actually a badge of honor to her. How should I communicate with her? Maybe reaching out by email or not. So when I reach out by email and she doesn't read it, whose fault's that? Mine or hers? I sent you an email, very well written. She doesn't care about that. That's not how she listens. That's how she interacts. And that's not her fault. She's told me that's how she engages with the rest of the world. Therefore, you got to do a private message or a text with her. That's the only way she responds. And that's how she interacts with the world. So, but connecting is only one piece, right? So as you establish and work to get that bridge, the thing that makes a difference in relationships. So if relationships connecting is the action, caring is the emotion behind relationships. So this the combination of the two. I want to connect to you because I want to take an action to build something, but I'm going to show you that I care about you, and that's the emotional side. This is the part that people will respond to the most. It means caring about the person, their families, their goals, their challenges, their problems, not just for the purpose of selling them another oil, but because you actually care about them as a person. Because remember, now I'll give you a selfish reason. How do you actually get successful in this business? Is to build a real team, right? Not by selling oils. That's an important byproduct. But if you build a team, all the oils you can ever imagine will be sold by everyone. Wait a second. If building a team is more important than selling an oil, then caring about people must be really important. And it is. So that's why I want to leave that impression with you. Caring means respecting who they are and what they stand for. When you ask someone what's their why, do you actually listen to their answer? Because when you care about them, that's with a game changer. That's when something is really important. Caring gives them a sense of safety and belonging. It means that you really do embrace them. You really do care about who they are. Let me give you 2 more tips about building relationships, and then I have a tool that I want to talk about. First one is recognizing people's accomplishments is such a critical thing. A lot of folks will give out gifts for people that rank up, but I want to talk about having proportional recognition. So one of the things that we all miss is someone wrote a good post, and we don't take the time to do an atta girl. But I all have to say, hey, Mary, love the post. Do you mind if I use it with my team? We don't do that nearly as often as we should or could. And that little thing, that little atta girl is a big deal. By the way, it doesn't mean you sent her a free bottle of rose. It didn't mean that you did a public statement. This was the greatest post ever. It was proportional. She did a good job doing something. You recognize it. That's how simple it is. We don't do that enough. And my encouragement to you tonight is to really make that a daily event. Who's doing something really good in your team today? Find ways to give out prizes, recognition, atta girls, pats on the back. Sometimes it needs to be in private. If you know you should be knowing the people well enough, they don't need a big show. But if you just send them a private message, hey, loved your post today. Thank you for the message. Just something simple like that. Proportional recognition is such a great deal. Second one, and this is going to be real hard for all my reds out there, be likable, be fun, be encouraging, be empathetic, be interesting, be interested, be gentle, be easy to laugh, be happy, and be grateful, and be a better listener than you are a talker. A wonderful list of B's. One more time. Be likable, be fun, be encouraging, be empathetic, be interested, be interesting, be gentle, be easy to laugh, be happy, be grateful, and be a better listener than you're a talker. Those things will help you to just be likable. People want to have relations with people that they like to be with. Wow, this seems like a really hard thing to figure out. But then someone will tell you, well, yeah, I just don't really like being with Mary. Well, it's because Mary's not very likable. So if you add these 2 things to the other ideas of connecting and caring, you're on the road to building solid relationships. One more serious tip, and this is the biggest secret to building relationships, and this is the hardest one to do now. Be intentional. So that last bullet on the slide is called a relationship map. And so what I did was I created a tool, and again, this is for the greens. It's a very simple spreadsheet. That means rows and columns. Don't mean to throw everybody else off, and so I don't mean to throw the blues into a tailspin. But it's just a very simple spreadsheet. The rows, I just want you to imagine 5 or 6 people that are really important to you on your team. And you just write those 5 names down. The columns are going to be something about those people that is important to you. So I've been using colors the last couple of minutes. If colors mean something, then have the column as a color. So Mary's a red, June's a green, Jane's are blue. That's important to you because now you understand where they come from in terms of their personality. But other things that are really important are like, how do they prefer to communicate? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What's their motivation? What is their communication, not preference on what they like to do, but how do they like to communicate out? Do they like to speak? Do they like to write? Those things that are important to you to understand them. But here's the reason why. It's the last column that is so critical. And by the way, during my program, I actually have a tool that's got 28 columns to help you give different ideas. But the last column's the same, which is, what is your relationship plan for this person? So let me give you an example. Let's say we're talking about Mary. Mary's been, gosh, a lifelong friend. You've got an amazing relationship with her. Well, you don't need to have coffee with Mary every week, but you do need to talk to Mary at least once a month. Here's what happens to all of us. We get so busy with this business. I haven't talked to Mary, probably in a couple of weeks, and then you actually look in your calendar, you haven't talked to Mary in 3 months. What do you think that relationship with Mary is doing during that 3 months? By the way, she's your best friend. It isn't like it's going south. It's just aging. It's just getting a little stale. Instead, if on your calendar, on that column, it says frequency, Mary once a month. What's the biggest issue with Mary? It's her daughter. Her daughter's in college and her daughter's struggling a little bit. So you know that you're going to call Mary because she doesn't want to do a coffee. She wants a phone call. You're going to call Mary once a month and you're going to talk about her daughter. That goes in that column so that you have a plan. But that means that you are intentional. And I'm telling you, if you can put this map together for your relationships, it will change the way that people see you. Because now, we talked about Mary. What about June? June's a pretty brand new relationship with you, but she is a superstar business builder. I need to see June once a week for about 2 months because I'm going to really help her to really get her business off the ground. Well, you have to be intentional. Once a week, that's a huge commitment of time. But if you make that commitment and put it in your calendar, then all of a sudden you can meet that commitment, and it will change June's business and it will really lead on. So the key word there is being intentional. And if you take anything away from connecting and caring and recognition and being likable, be intentional about what you want to do with your relationships. It literally will change your business. This is the biggest tip that I can give you right now. So, but I'm still not done, right? We're only halfway through. Let's go the other way. Let's talk about earning trust. So trust, I'll read this for you off my sheet. Trust is the reliance on a person's integrity, ability, and character. And yeah, we talked about this before, but trust can only be earned. Now remember how this engine works, right? First, you want to establish credibility. Then you want to build a relationship. That allows you to have that foundation to talk about trust. And when I say trust can only be earned, okay, well, how do you earn trust? Quite simply, it's called the say-do. I know this, and this is for all my Iowa friends. You're going to do what you said you were going to do. This is not hard to figure out. There's no mystery. Now, pause. Every single person on this call, myself included, has had what is known as a say-do gap. Means you said you were going to do something and you didn't do it. I'm just telling you straight up, if you haven't had one of those, private message me later because it must be coming from Jesus up in heaven. Because everyone's had this, right? What you want to do is you want to really have an opportunity to have say-do alignment. That when I say something, I'm going to actually do it. And when that happens, I will build trust. People will expect, wow, Eric said he was going to be on tonight at 5:30. And I was actually on at 5:20. Well, Skyla now knows that she can trust Eric to be on time, especially when it's her meeting, not mine. I'm always on time for my meetings, right? Well, this was her meeting. She can trust me. She knows that if she's going to have another presentation, she wants me to speak in front of you guys, she knows that I'll be there. That's a real simple thing, but when you're the one planning a meeting and the presenter doesn't show up on time, it's actually a huge thing. Just that little itty-bitty thing I said I'd be on and I was on is a say-do. I earned a little bit of trust with each of you and a little bit of trust with Skylar. Now, I didn't say that I earned all the trust in the world. It's a combination of these things. Now, this is what's really important. I want you to think in terms of creating say-do opportunities. So when someone says, well, okay, I understand, Eric, but how do I get those things to happen? So I'm going to give you the tip. I want you to start thinking in terms of the things that you do as finding ways to break them down into pieces that you can delegate away. I'll give you a simple example. We're going to a vendor event. It's just a community fair in a couple weeks. And there's probably 50 things that have to get done to get ready for it. Well, my wife and our goal is to try to hand out 49 of the 50. Now, not because we're not trying to do any work. Well, okay, a little bit is because we don't want to do all the work. But the majority is I want to give say-do trust-earning opportunities to the team. So it's a tabletop, by the way. So, hey, Mary, would you mind bringing a 4 foot by 8 foot rectangular table? No problem, Eric, I got that. Now, when it's a tabletop event and Mary doesn't show up with a table, we have a problem, right? But when she does show up at the table, guess what? She just earned trust with me. June, would you mind dressing the table? You bring the tablecloth, make sure it gets ironed, and bring some flowers. Just bring the tablecloth and flowers. That'd be great. Just a little thing, right? Now, Jane, what I'd like you to do is to bring. We're going to have some flyers. So would you bring the holders for the flyers so they stand up looking nice? And any other things that you might do to dress up the table a little bit. You know how big it is, and all we're going to have is flowers. Well, June gets to show up. This is Jane. Jane gets to show up with some different things for the table. All those are say-do opportunities, trust-building opportunities. This is how you help build trust with people. You give them a chance to earn your trust. Now, everyone's saying, great, yeah. And Mary didn't show up at the table, or June forgot the tablecloth. Well, we had an example once where the person did forget the table. And it was a tabletop event. And this doesn't look good, right? You can't just like create a table out of nothing. But guess what? Mary knew that she'd really screwed up. And I said, Mary, you know what? Let's turn this around. Let's make this the most amazing event we've ever had. You're going to be our linebacker. And guess what the linebacker's job is? Your job is to tackle everybody you possibly can and drag them into our booth. Well, in a tabletop event, you don't normally do that, right? I mean, you wait for people to walk by. You're very polite. Hi, how are you? You wave, show them a bottle of oil. Well, Mary, there's no table. So Mary literally, she just went out, shook hands, grabbed people. I think we stopped at dragging their shirts, but she was just dragging people into the booth because she was going to make up for that miss. So she had this, she had a say-do. She lost a little trust, but she overcame it by it was absolutely our best event ever. I can't tell you how many people we got to sign up, and it was amazing. But I will tell you, it was because of Mary, not because we had some great booth. She just was going to put it. But there's an example how to overcome that. But we gave her another opportunity to earn some trust back. This is what's real key. Now, let me give you some examples on how to really look at say-do, because it'll help you now. So the first one is having a level of clarity on what you say. This is the biggest mistake that people make, and what drives the biggest say-do, the largest number of say-do gaps, is because people were not clear on what they said. So it's not surprising. I said, hey, Mary, bring a table. Now, I didn't tell her that it needed to be a 4 by 8 foot rectangular. She brings a round table. Well, that's not on Mary. That's on me. And I can't get upset at her because she didn't bring the right size table when I did not tell her what kind of table to bring. So the biggest thing that I want to encourage you to try to clarify on say-do is to be very clear on what the say is. The next thing is ownership over the do. Being extremely clear that the person who has said they're going to do something owns that they're going to do it. A lot of times we just we say we're going to do something, but we don't really mean it. And you all think of that. Your kids are really great at say-do gaps. So if you can do those two things, be extremely clear on what you're expecting and making sure that there's ownership, you will find a way to really get to, guess what? Trusted advisor. That's what you want to get to, by the way. You want to become a trusted advisor to your team. They're going to seek your advice. Communication is going to be freer and more frank. You're going to get brought in earlier to their problems. Right? We all know what that's like when they come rushing to us. The problem is now at the size of a mountain. Had they talked to you a week ago, it would have been the size of a molehill. And they're going to support your decisions faster because they trust you. Trusted advisor is what you want to be. So one of the things you might want to ask yourself when you're building that relationship map, put a column there. Trusted advisor. So with Mary, are you a trusted advisor? With June, do yes, no. It's just another example of a column that you could put in if it was important to you. But guess what? We established credibility. We built relationships. We're earning trust. All that's to get us to, if I can do the right order, gaining influence. Influence, by the way, and this is a really good definition, means that you are able to motivate, encourage, and impact the direction of the other person in the team. Influence means that you are able to motivate, encourage, and impact the direction of the other person and the team. Influence is not command and control. No one cares that you are the upline or the higher rank. They really don't. Some people don't even have a relationship with their upline. So why would that matter? And there have been times when you would think about it, you actually, wow, you guys really ought to do this. And no one does it. Well, let me tell you, you don't have influence. By the way, it's also not persuasion. Just because you've got this, you're a good arguer. You cannot persuade someone to do someone. That's not real influence. And coercion is the worst. That you don't want to make it sound like you have a threat. You're going to share that with corporate or something. Influence is the culmination of the leadership engine. We talked about credibility, relationship, and trust. But when you get to influence, this is your character and integrity in action. You're now a leader helping others with their journey. And when that's happening, let me tell you that your character and integrity is going to be on the main stage. They're going to see who you really are, what you're really made of. How genuine and real are you? And Maxwell has this really cool definition of leadership. When you turn around and there's no one behind you, you're just taking a walk and you're not leading. But when you do turn around, when you do the really effective thing on influence, I'm going to tell you, when you turn around, there's going to be people behind you. They want to follow you. They want to take the things that you're suggesting and put them in their own business. They want to do the things that are going to, and oh, by the way, take the ideas and make them their own. That's what it really means on getting there. Let me do one thing, because one of the things that happens, and this happens with everyone, what happens if the relationship fails or trust is broken? And again, if you haven't had this happen, then you haven't been living very long. First thing, real simple. Find out, listen to them. There's a great book, by the way, called Crucial Conversations. I recommend it highly. But listen to them. What's the level of hurt? Where did the hurt come from? If you are at fault, suck up, fall on your sword, and apologize. Just do it. I don't care if you think you're more righteous. I don't care if you think that you even might be right in this circumstance. If you hurt someone, even accidentally, just plain apologize. And then start using something I think is very, very important, which are called open-ended questions. Start to probe and find out what went wrong. How did they even get hurt? What is the source of their pain? What is it that you said that bothered them? What level of context did they miss or did they have when you said it? When you ask these open-ended questions, it changes the game. Now, I've been mentioning my Downline leadership program. It's a 12-week intensive program. We focus on open-ended questions literally every single week. And what's funny is that the very first week, and Skyla can smile at this, almost invariably, someone in the group will not be able to do it. And here's why. Because we're used to asking yes, no questions. Did you, could you, would you, have you? And because we're talking to our kids or our husband, and the answer is quite simply, did you do this? And it changes the way they interact with you when that's all there is. When all they can ever say is yes, no, wait a second, you're asking me an open-ended question like you really want to hear my opinion. That becomes the difference. So what are some examples of open-ended questions? What do you think the problem is? Why do you think they reacted that way? How would you like to proceed? What are some other possible reasons for the problem? And here's my favorite one. And what would it look like if we called customer service together? I actually have a coffee mug that says, what would it look like if? And we actually ask those questions, and we do this every week. We actually call the person a storyteller. She'll be telling a story, a problem that she's having, and we just ask her open-ended questions. Because here's the hard one. When someone has a problem, who is the only person who really can solve that problem? That's them, not you. Oh no, I'll call leader support. No, you might get answers, you might be able to do parts of it, but they can only ever fix their own problem. Because even if you give them all the information, they've got to put it into action. They've got to take the information from corporate and they've got to do something with it. They've got to re-communicate it to the customer. Only they can do that because only they know all the things about the situation. You don't. Even though you think you know everything, you never know everything about them. And trust me, after 12 weeks of asking open-ended questions, you get really good at it. So we kind of started with a Maxwell quote. I thought it'd be good to end on one. So this is real simple, and I believe it firmly. Everything rises and falls on leadership. I can't say that enough. It doesn't matter how good a manager you are. It doesn't matter how good a person you are. In the end, it comes down to your leadership. Today, we only scratched the surface. This is actually only pieces of the second chapter. There's a lot more to share, not just for my book, but in leadership in general. And I want to encourage you to get on that leadership journey, to find sources, resources, books, people that can help you to improve your leadership. Because at the end of the day, that's what will make the difference in your business. So fall in love with the oils. Learn how to run your business. Help others to run theirs. And then focus on your leadership. It will make all the difference. Skyla, that would be it for the presentation. And I cannot wait for some questions. I'm going to say
thank you so much, Eric. Huge round of applause from everybody. All right. Well,
all on you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And for those of you watching the recording, we will see you next week when we have the youngest Young Living Diamond ever, Bethany Shipley from Missouri, hit Diamond at 24 years old. So join us on July 13th to get to hear a little bit of her story.